No, I'm not a writer.
Okay.
Something is about to break.
Hey guys, it's Taylor, and you made it to episode 70 of the About to Break podcast. This one is a good one. I can't wait to share it with you, and we're going to get to that right away. But first, I got to thank a few folks. As always, I want to thank our friends at Cat Beach Music for providing the music for this episode. If you're working on a commercial project or a television show or a movie, and you're trying to find the music that really captures that scene, go visit our friends at Cat Beach Music. They can help you out. catbeachmusic.com. I want to thank our producers. Guys, I can't believe we've made it to episode 70. It wouldn't be possible without the producers. And this episode is brought to you by two of our producers, Scott Carman and Josh Oot, two of our newest producers. Thank you guys, each sponsoring at $10 a month. It means so much to me that you guys would care enough about these shows to want to help offset the cost of producing them. If these shows bring you as much encouragement as they do me, I'd encourage you to go check out our Patreon page. You can get to that by going to abouttobreakpodcast.com and scroll down to the Become a Producer button. For as little as $1 a month, you can become a producer of these episodes, and for like $3 or more, you get some special perks and bonus material that's not available here. So go check it out, become a producer, and thank you to everyone who's been supporting the show. Some fun stuff coming up. First of all, tonight, I'll be at Scott Neary's Booby Trap. This comes out on April 25th, and that's Wednesday evening. I'll be doing a brand new routine there. Did a brand new one last week. Didn't love it. That happens. So hopefully this one will be fun. Listen, it's always fun doing new material. Last night we did a new material show, and it was fantastic at the Clubhouse. Thank you to everyone who performed. We had Chipper Lowell and Morgan J. and the new Bad Boys of Magic and David Stryker and Nick Paul. Such a great show. Thank you again to everyone who came out and supported the show, and for all the performers. My buddy Eddie Firth doing stand-up comedy. Guys, it was great. We'll do it again. Stay tuned for that. But yeah, tonight I will be at Scott Neary's Booby Trap. Come out and say, hey, if you want to be on the guest list, just send me a DM and I will add you to the guest list. This weekend I'll be at the Upland of Lemon Festival. Just hanging out. Katie's going to be working. She's been making furniture like crazy, and she's helping run our friend's shop, The Rusty Gypsy, in downtown Upland. So come say hey to us. We'll be around during the weekend. If you're anywhere near Upland, the Lemon Festival is crazy cool. Imagine like a Hallmark movie, Old Town Festival, but they also got like major carnival rides and a beer garden all in the middle of a two-way street. So it's pretty rad. Come check it out. That's going to be, I guess that's the 27th through the 29th. We'll be hanging out there. And then what else do I got going on? I'm just doing some shows. May 16th, guys, I'll be in Atlanta. If you're anywhere near Atlanta, come see me. We're going to be at Smith's Old Bar. Tickets available for that. And you can find out where else I'm going to be and come hang out. Let's hang, guys. TaylorHughes.com/live will get you to all of the tour dates there. And I hope to see you guys soon. All right, let's get into this episode. It's a good one. I've been looking forward to this episode for a while. I reached out to Ben because I love his work. Ben Schrader, folks, is on the program this week. Ben is an incredible star of stage and screen. He's done everything, guys. He's in the original Broadway cast of the Book of Mormon, Avenue Q. He was one of the voices in Disney's Frozen. And he's recently rediscovered his childhood love of magic, which has led him to create one of the coolest venues I've experienced as of late in LA. Another one of his passions is creating cocktail menus, and he's done it for the Tiki Bar at Clifton's and places in New York, and now he's created his own experience every Monday night called Magic Bar LA. So much great stuff in this conversation. I know you're going to love it. I know you'll be encouraged by it. Sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 70, my conversation with Ben Schrader. Hey everybody, welcome to About to Break. I'm your host Taylor Hughes, and I am sitting down right now with star of stage and screen and fellow magic geek, Ben Schrader. I hope the Magic Geek thing is okay.
I wouldn't call it anything else, man. That's exactly what it is.
I'm so excited. I've been looking forward to this conversation because this is about the entertainment business, and often I talk with actors or musicians or magicians, and right now I'm talking to someone who's done all of it.
I put myself down, I guess. I don't give myself enough credit or something, but I always say jack of all trades, master of none, because I think anyone who's in the entertainment field sometimes has that thing of feeling like a fraud or like, fake it till you make it, and then you kind of realize, I'm doing it, so you know what I mean? You're kind of like...
It's weird when you're actually doing the thing and simultaneously, we were talking about that, like simultaneously feeling like, what am I doing?
Yeah, it's a total complex, I think, that I should probably talk about with a therapist. But, I think it's that complex of like, I don't know if I should be doing this or if I'm qualified to do this or do that. And then you realize you're just as able and capable to do it as anyone else. It's just about doing it.
Yeah.
So that seems to be what has worked for me.
Yeah, man. Let's start here because you and we just met literally last night for the first time. Yeah. Introductions. And I want to talk about Magic Bar LA because that was such a cool experience.
Oh, thank you.
So we'll definitely hit on that. But I'm so curious, seeing all the things that you've done, what was your first step into entertainment? Where did that come from for you?
Well, as far as kind of the trajectory of the majority of what I've been doing, was theater. Yeah. So theater, when I was a kid, my grandparents, I basically staying with them every summer. My parents would send me to them in Denver. So my grandparents took me to the theater. I didn't know what the theater was. I was about 9 years old, and we saw The Music Man at a dinner theater.
Oh, wow.
And
where were you living when you would go visit them?
I was living in Seattle. I grew up in Seattle. So my parents sent me to go to live with my grandparents. My grandparents took me to a dinner theater production of The Music Man. All I cared about was that the term dinner was in there.
Right.
And then the musical started, and I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know what it was. And this actor came out, I don't remember the entirety. I mean, I know the show, but I just remember when the actor started to do You Got Trouble from The Music Man.
Oh, yeah.
And that was, all of a sudden, I was hooked. I was like, what is he doing? All these people seem to be knowing what's happening here.
Yeah.
This is great. At the same time, I'm eating a pork chop. Like, this is fantastic. And I thought, what is this? Who are these people? And what is this thing that's happening? Yeah. And then it was theater. And went back to Seattle, and that was it. Yeah. I was hooked on that. So you get involved in community theater and school theater and stuff like that. So I was all about theater when I was a kid. And
your parents were right away just like super supportive of it, or how?
I mean, they wouldn't have had a choice. I don't think, anyways. They were supportive.
Launch sequence was activated.
Yeah, I think so. I think I come from a family of boys. I have 3 brothers who are all sports guys.
Oh yeah, what's that like?
Well, it's one of those things where I played sports, and then you get to a point in high school. Usually, it's around high school where you either are able to continue doing sports, right. Or sports basically says to you, I think you're good.
Yeah, there's that certain level where it's like, you're a kid, you're about the same height, we can all play.
Right.
And then there's guys who really know what they're doing.
Exactly right. And so sports kind of just went bye-bye, which was fine because at the same time, theater was kind of coming into it for me. And it was great because then all of a sudden I was surrounded by the weirdos that I wanted to be around. Yeah. And that was it. I mean, once I found theater, specifically musical theater, that was my trajectory. I couldn't think of anything else, do anything else. I graduated high school in 99, same year you did, I think. Yeah. And went to an acting conservatory in Seattle for like 2 years. And then I was like, they're not doing any musical theater here. And I was already working. I was already booking shows and working in the community in Seattle, which is a pretty rich theater community. And a friend of mine said, come to New York. If you come to New York, I'll get you a audition with my agent.
Yeah.
And that's all I needed to hear. So I bought a one-way ticket to, that quintessential,
you did it. I'm going
to do the,
Yeah. You have was like not a small satchel.
Exactly right. At the end of a stick.
Yeah.
Rode the rails to get there. It was, I don't look at that and go, that was really what a courageous thing to do or what. No, it was complete naive ignorance. I'm doing this. It's great. Here we're going to go. And New York's going to welcome me with open arms because I'm doing so great. I was a bigger fish in a smaller pond in Seattle.
When did you realize that this could be like a career? Like, did you did you know working actors or?
I did because I started working at around, I started booking, like paying theater jobs around 16. In the local theater, community theater. And then that kept kind of feeding into more and more jobs. At the same time, I was going to school, and school was saying to me, hey, we want you to be in school. We don't want you to do jobs. And I was like, well, aren't you teaching me to be work?
Like, the whole point of this is at the end of this, I'll be able to work.
Right. So then while I was in college there, I read a book called True or False by David Mamet.
Okay.
And basically, True or False is one of the angriest acting books you can read. It basically says, it's David Mamet basically saying, acting teachers suck. They don't know what they're talking about. They are people who can't do it, so they teach. You know,
just calling everyone out.
Yeah, calling everyone out and just being angry. You know, very David Mamet in a way. And at the time when I read that at about 18 years old, it was the gospel to me. I was like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, you're right. Basically, it was just permission for me to do what I wanted to do, which was drop out of school and move to New York. Yeah. Looking back at it now, the book, I don't agree with hardly anything in that book.
Right.
But at the time, it was like the permission.
Yeah.
So I bought a one-way ticket to New York thinking like, New York's going to welcome me with open arms. Wait till they get a load of me.
Wait till they hear the gift that's coming.
That's right. You're welcome, New York. So I went to New York.
Of all the cities to go in with that mentality.
Just an idiot. I mean, such an idiot. So I went there. I did go there. I was already working on a show that ended up going to Broadway called Next to Normal. And I was doing workshops of that. So I was already kind of in with some people as far as people who were involved in Broadway theater. Yeah. So I didn't go in completely blind, but I didn't work right away. I had a couple of tours that I did, some things like that, but I didn't get on Broadway till about 7 years in.
Yeah. When was the moment where you were like, okay, hold on, this isn't coming as easy as I thought it was?
When I was working at the Museum of Natural History, working the elevator, taking people up to the planetarium during the day. Yeah. And at night, I was working at a boutique hotel on 28th Street on the east side as a bellhop and wondering, how is it that I can work all these hours and they haven't given me a break? And then I looked around and I realized none of the other bellhops had their green card. Oh, wow. And I went, oh, well, wow. Maybe I shouldn't be at this job. So I had so many odd jobs and weird things. But again, you're in your 20s. I was 21 and I was like, yeah, that's okay. I'm taking my licks. And so you don't kind of think about it. You just do it.
Isn't there something special, though, about that kind of like naivete? Like that, I mean, I think about the things I would have never done if I knew you shouldn't do this.
Absolutely.
Like,
I don't think I could do it now because I think I'm too particular now. I'm too set in my ways now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'll live in a complete dump. I'll live in a complete, shithole and eat crappy food and put up with all this shit because you feel like, it's an adventure and you feel like, I have to do this. Right. I have to do this.
And you've read all the books about going through that.
Exactly right.
Like, all my heroes lived like this. Totally. I'm on track.
And I had a connection with New York too because I was there during 9/11 and I was already kind of in love with it. But when 9/11 happened, I felt like, wow, it was a weird, there's no silver lining really to that time, but the only thing I could think of that would approach that a little bit would be how New York felt afterwards. That's the first time I saw Community in New York. And I went, New York's not a cold place. Right. New York is full of really warm, loving people. It's just a hard place to live. Right. But that, kind of adage of make it there, make it anywhere kind of thing, it kind of rings true. If you stick it out and you are there for a reason, you'll end up figuring it out. Yep. So that's what my experience was there. And then eventually, I had a succinct goal. It was, I need to get on Broadway. Yeah. So I'd work all these crap jobs and I would go, it sounds like such a romanticized story, but I would go onto 44th Street in New York, where a lot of the Broadway theaters are. You have Phantom of the Opera across from where Avenue Q was, and it's like a whole line of theaters. And I would finish my shift. I was working a restaurant at one point, and at around 7:45, I would go down to 44th Street, and I would walk across cross block on that theater row.
Yeah.
And if you walked at just the right time, at 8 o'clock, all the shows would start. And so you could start on 44th and 8th, right at the corner where Phantom of the Opera was. And you could walk starting at 7:59 exactly. You would walk and you could start to hear the overtures of the shows through the exit doors. So I would walk along 44th Street and Phantom of the Opera would be starting. And then I would hit the Golden Theater, and whatever play was there at the time, it was before Avenue Q was there, would starting. Wow. And then Chorus Line would start. And then Les Miserables was next down the street from that would start. And then you would take a left, you'd go up Schubert Alley, and you could hear stuff at the booth. And you would I would do a loop.
Yeah.
I would do this 3 times a week.
Yeah.
I would take the loop at 8 o'clock, and I could hear all the shows. And it was simultaneously the most depressing thing I could possibly do to myself. And also the most hopeful thing you could do.
It's that simultaneous, you know.
And there were times when it would make me very happy, and I'd go, God, this is great. I'm going to do this.
One day.
And then there were times when I go, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
This sucks. And then eventually, it just takes time, and your footprint has to deepen in that world, and you do. And then I got it. Yeah. And once I got a couple of Broadway tours, and then that brought me into doing Broadway in New York. And once that happened, it was just, you just are in the club. It's kind of a club.
It's one of those things that when you're not a part of it, it seems so massive, and then you get into it and you realize everybody knows. Is it like,
and when you're not in it, it seems so far away, and it's just the mystery of it makes it seem mysterious. And then eventually you see behind the curtain and you see the inner workings of it, and then you realize this is a business. These are all these, especially the big ones, the big musicals. These are machines.
Okay, yeah.
These are corporations. And if you get in, you get to be a cog in the machine and reap the benefits, financial benefits or whatever from it.
Yeah.
But we call it the golden handcuffs.
Once you're in, you feel like...
Well, you're in, you're making good money, but you're committed to 8 shows a week. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything.
You can't even audition for other stuff. There's just no time, right?
I mean, you can, but if you are in a show that's making money and you're saving and stuff, you're not going to leave it for just anything.
Yeah, that's true.
And so many of those shows, it's a gamble whether they work or not. If you find yourself in one that's stable, you're likelihood, if you're in the ensemble and stuff, likelihood is you're going to stick with it for a little while.
Yeah.
Because you want the security, which is not something that's afforded to actors very often.
Right.
So if you have an open-ended contract like I had in, a Book of Mormon, you're not going anywhere for a while.
Yeah.
So I stayed in that for 3 years, but that was a whole wild ride, and I wasn't about to go anywhere.
Right.
So, and then there's some shows that you think this is a surefire hit.
Yeah.
Okay, it's 2009. They're bringing back a very popular show, Ragtime, which is a big musical.
Oh, yeah.
This is going to be the big Broadway revival of it. Have all these amazing people involved. This is going to be, we're opening in the winter season when all the tourists are in.
Totally.
I am set, dude.
Yeah.
This is great. And we open, and then a month later, our closing notice.
It's crazy.
And you kind of go, what happened? Was it me? Well, no, dude. They opened,
there was that one note.
That one note.
Brought down the whole show.
I didn't hit it. You just realize you're at the whim of, it's a tourist industry.
Right.
You're at the whim of, it's 2009. You're at the height of the economic downturn.
Right.
And you're doing a musical that has an incredibly expensive overhead.
Right.
It's, a 40-person cast or something around there, and it's a huge orchestra. It's an expensive as hell show. And no one wants to go see a 3-hour-long, diatribe about the history of racial injustice in the country. They want to go see The Lion King.
Yeah.
And I kind of, they have, as a tourist, you have money to go see very few shows. You want to know that you're going to get your money's worth before you see it.
That's true, yeah.
So, yeah, they're going to go see Lion King and Phantom and the stuff that Mamma Mia and the stuff that they go, I know what I'm going to get. It's safe. So these shows are, you can't, nobody can predict.
Nah. Even with the history of that show and the cast and all of that, you never, like you said, it's the fluctuation of what's happening in society at the time. Do people want to escape or do they want to be contemplative? It's weird. It's weird too as a performer that everything we do, all the rehearsal and practice and timing, and then the audience gets to decide whether it's good or not.
Yeah, and that's that's the most. I mean, that's capitalism at its most fair,
right?
And that's the thing. I think when you're younger and if you're in the arts, if you're in the performing arts, it's about the love of it. It's about even if no one comes and sees this, we're doing our art and all this.
Right.
But in New York with Broadway, that's not what it is.
Yeah.
That's business, and it's about it's about the money and it's about the revenue and these are big entertainment ventures with a lot of money behind it and a lot of investors. And if you don't make that money back, if these investors, you're out.
Yeah.
Because they got to move on. And there's only a certain amount of theaters.
Right.
And there's a lot of shows.
They're all competing for attention.
They're all competing. So, yeah.
Was Avenue Q your first kind of big show, or?
Yeah, Avenue Q was my Broadway debut.
Yeah.
I did a Broadway national tours and things, but Q was my debut. And that was really exciting. I used to think when I was a kid, I thought, Broadway theaters, they must be huge.
Oh, yeah.
For the most part, Broadway theaters are kind of
very
dumps.
intimate. Yeah. I call them intimate, but dumps is another one.
I mean, we were in Avenue Q was in a theater that was 1,600 seats, which is not a lot. It's not like your performing arts center in your hometown,
right?
Which usually had a lot of seats.
Yeah.
No, these theaters are small and they're intimate, and they're a lot of them are because they're old playhouses,
right?
And then musicals went into them. Yep. So it was definitely that's a little bit of seeing behind the curtain. You have a perception. When I was a kid, I had a perception of it, and when I was a kid, Broadway was. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have. Right. We didn't have that.
Yeah. So you just had the soundtrack.
Exactly. Yeah, you had your cast album. You had your imagination, and then maybe whatever you saw on TV, like Rosie O'Donnell would have Broadway shows perform all the time on the Rosie O'Donnell show. So I would come home from school and I would see whatever clips they were showing on Rosie, and I'd go, "Yes, I want to do that. I want to do that." Yeah. And then it would go away. You wouldn't see it.
Yeah. Or you listen to the soundtrack and try to fill in the blanks of what it looked like. And
that's the reason you would watch the Tony Awards or the Macy's Day Parade.
Yep.
And that was the only representation of Broadway that I had in my life. Now, you can go online and watch the entirety of Hamilton if you know where to look.
It's crazy.
It's just all it's all out there now, which is I don't know. I don't think necessarily it's bad, but it just wasn't my experience.
Right. Well, and you have the plus side of it's now exposing musical theater to a larger audience than it ever has. But it's also not the same as sitting in the little tiny theater and seeing it happen live.
Not at all. It's the work that's put into to getting there and actually doing it. It's still the same. It's still a lot of work to actually get there and do it. Yeah. I think now that you can watch it or listen to performances, you probably feel a little closer to it. Like a kid now who wants to do that would feel very close to it now because they can follow these shows on Instagram or Twitter or whatever. They can feel like they're part of a community of fans of these shows. But they
still to actually get in.
To actually do it, I think it may be a rude awakening for a lot of people of thinking that, I'll go there and I'm already a part of this. It's like, nah, you got to go there and put in the work.
Is it like other aspects of entertainment where once you get in, you can continue to work? Like, I feel like most entertainment, nobody wants to hire you to do the thing until you've already done it. And then once you've done it, it's like, oh, well, he did it there.
Well, no one wants to be the first person to give you the shot, really. Yeah. Because if it doesn't work out, they don't want to have egg on their face. Yeah. So every once in a while, you'll have someone that will give you your break or whatever. Yeah. They want to see that you've been vetted. So, yeah, I mean, it really is kind of once you're into one of them.
Right.
you kind of hope, oh gosh, I hope I'm not just one and done. I hope that wasn't a fluke.
Yeah.
Then you get into another one and you go, oh, okay, all right, I guess someone likes me. You know, it becomes one of those kind of things. And then you get into another one and then you start to feel, that's my dog.
Hi,
you can hear him.
Is a cute dog.
We're not talking about him, so
I know he's like, I need all the attention.
Exactly. So you just need to be vetted, and then once you get into a few, then you start to be known for particular things.
Right. Yeah. It's like it is. He's totally fine. I'm loving it.
All right. Well, if he starts whining too much, I'll put him in the room.
Oh, he's great. It is one of those things too, where it's one thing to say, "Yeah, I could do this. Believe in me, I could do it."
Yeah.
Or, "Hey, come see me. I'm performing down the street at this venue already."
Right. And people want to. They don't want to take it for a lot of reasons.
The stakes are high.
The stakes are high, and they want a commodity that they know that they don't have to worry about.
Yeah.
So, but the good thing is once you get a few, your career starts going.
Were you able to go from one to the next, or were there breaks in between where you were like, well, that ended and now?
Well, once I started, there weren't very many breaks. I did a couple of shows and then there was some time in between when I first started. But once I made my Broadway debut, there were no breaks.
Yeah.
And partly because my opportunities were that I could sit in a show for as long as I needed until there was another opportunity.
Got it.
So I was fortunate in that regard.
Yeah.
But then I got to a point after doing, a very long time of 8 shows a week in one show or another, I was starting to get a little burnt out.
Yeah.
So the analogy I kind of use is you ever drive home and you pull into your driveway and you're like, oh, how did I get home? Like, I don't remember the drive.
Oh, yeah.
I would literally get to the ending of shows. Year 2, year 3 of Book of Mormon. I would get to the ending of a show. We'd be at the curtain call or we'd be at the finale or whatever. And all of a sudden I would click into the present moment and I'd go, whoa.
You're on autopilot.
I was on autopilot this whole time. I don't remember anything. My body did what it needed to do. I said what I needed to say. It's not that I was phoning it in. That's different. Yeah. I wasn't conscious enough to phone it in. I was going full tilt.
Yeah.
It was just complete muscle memory.
Wow.
And so I would go, God, I don't remember doing this show. I just remember, but here I am now.
Yeah.
And I would have a kind of an out-of-body experience. So that's when that started happening frequently, is when I started going, I'm feeling like I'm punching my card.
Like your time is almost done with this because it's
I'm not an actor right now. That's how I started to feel. I started to feel like I'm just punching the card.
Because you're not having to be intentional with your choices.
I'm just a prop. I'm kind of a prop.
Wow,
I'm facilitating this. So I started feeling, but you weigh that against the other thing, which is here I am, and this was pre-Hamilton. So at the time when Mormon opened in 2011, so this was the hottest thing on Broadway ever. Right. I met every celebrity I would want to meet in my entire life.
Yeah.
You would look out in the audience, especially the first year of the run of that show. It was like looking out at the audience of the Golden Globes.
Oh yeah.
I met everyone was there.
Yeah.
There's Nicholson in the front seat, and 2 seats behind him, there's Robin Williams in the corner, and Colbert is there, Steve Martin's sitting there, Ian McKellen's there, like every single, and then they would come backstage.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're just meeting an idol or a hero. They just saw you perform. So you can be like, Ian McKellen came one night and I knew he was there. I had heard he was there. So I call my wife, my girlfriend at the time, but now my wife. I call her up and I said, Gwen, Ian McKellen is here. I need you to do me a huge favor. Now, meanwhile, Gwen is living, she's up on 116th Street in her pajamas. Yeah. And I said, you need to get my leather bound copy of The Lord of the Rings. You need to bring it down here. She goes, what the fuck are you talking about? I said, Ian McKellen is here. And I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
This is not a drill.
I said, this is not a drill. She's like, I'm in my pajamas. I was like, I don't care. So I made my wife get on the train, get on the subway. And she comes down with my leather-bound Ian McKellen, my leather-bound copy of Lord of the Rings that I was ready to give to Ian McKellen.
Yeah.
McKellen comes backstage. I get changed so quick.
Yeah.
I run down, all the dressing rooms are kind of stacked on top of each other in these old Broadway theaters.
Right.
So I go up and I get changed. I run downstairs. He's on the stage and he's looking just elegant and regal.
Oh, yes.
He's got scarves around his neck.
Yes.
And
I have multiple scarves.
Oh my God. And there's that whole thing of like, they say never meet your idols, which I kind of feel that, but at the same time, I think the reason they say that is that you generally, you want your idols to be the way you envision them.
Right.
As much as I wanted to meet Ian McKellen, who I really wanted to meet was Gandalf.
Right.
But, you
bring out the rope. Could you put this on?
Exactly right. It's exactly right. But here's the kicker. For the most part, it never turns out that way.
Yeah.
With McKellen, he's there, and I go downstairs, and I have this book clenched to my chest, this big leather-bound Lord of the Rings. And I say, Mr. McKellen, and I show him the book, and and at the time, my late father was very sick at the time. And my father and I shared this love of Lord of the Rings together. We kind of found elements as my father was battling cancer, and we found elements of the story that were kind of parallel to my father's struggle.
Yeah.
You have a character or an individual who's carrying a great burden. They may not make it through, but it's not about if they make it or not. It's about just trying your hardest.
Right. Yeah.
And that whole story, the whole Lord of the Rings thing, I connect with on a deep level because it's about friendship, sacrifice, life, death, all these things.
Anyways, and the value of the journey.
The value of the journey.
It's not just the destination. It's
exactly. Yeah. And there's this beautiful scene in the book, but it's gorgeous in the movie where all hell is breaking loose.
Yeah.
The castle is being besieged. And of Gondor, and you have Ian McKellen's character. You have Gandalf sitting with the little hobbit Pippin, and he says, the little hobbit says to him that he's afraid, and he goes, I don't want to die. Essentially, is what he says.
Yeah.
And Gandalf looks at him and he says, it's going to be fine. Death is just another part of this whole thing.
Yeah.
And the veil of reality will kind of part its ways, and there'll be far distant green shores and it's this beautiful moment.
Yeah.
And it was very touching for me and actually helped me deal with some grief. So what I wanted to say when I met McKellen, this was while my dad was sick, I wanted to say, thank you for your work.
Yeah.
This scene in this movie is something that has brought me a lot of comfort, and your work in this scene and stuff. My dad and I share this, and hey, stop! I'm telling a good story right now.
It's a good story.
Come here,
Watson.
So I wanted to say, kind of eloquently, thank you, and this means a lot to me.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing him, and I go, you're Gandalf, It's one of those moments.
That was great.
Yeah.
When you did.
My dad and I liked you. Yeah, it was so dumb.
I hate Twizzlers.
Exactly.
And you save the world.
It was kind of like, it's like Chris Farley in that skit where he meets Paul McCartney, and he's like, remember when you were in the Beatles?
That was great.
That was great. So I see him, and I wanted to say all this eloquent stuff, but I managed to get out enough of like, thank you, and this means something. Anyways, he leans in and he goes, and it was the moment that just changed everything. It was the moment when I realized, oh, you are being who I need you to be right now.
Yes.
He goes, tell me your name. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
I go, I'm Ben. He goes, and how is your father now? And I go, well, he's doing all right. He's fighting the fight. And he goes, and I said, would you sign this? And he goes, oh my dear, let's look at this. And he opens up my Lord of the Rings book, and I give him I give him a Sharpie. And then he signs his name to Ben Ian McKellen, and he's speaking like this. And I'm like, it's like every single grumble of his voice is magical. Yes. And he draws a picture in the book that I have in the other room. I'll show it to you. The book, he draws a picture, like a profile picture of Gandalf. In the book.
Goodness.
And he's drawing, and it was one of those, ever meet those people that it doesn't matter how many people are around you, you're the only person looking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was so he draws this picture. He hands me back the book, and he says, it was wonderful to meet you. Wonderful show, Benjamin. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. And then I'm clutching the book to my chest, and he takes his hands and he puts it on the side of my head. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm being blessed by Gandalf. And then he leans in and he kisses me on the mouth.
What?
And I have this thought, and I go, well, first of all, of course he is.
Yeah.
Because here's this young chorus boy who just performed for him on Broadway, and Ian McKellen is a man of the theater.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, there's a lot of young, athletic chorus boys doing the same, and he kisses me on the mouth. And so the thought I had was, oh my God, first of all, geez. And then I go, I'm okay with this.
Yeah. Honey, just this once.
Just this one. If Gandalf wants to kiss me on the mouth, enjoy yourself, man.
Oh, yeah.
So it was meetings like that made it worth it. And then going back to kind of what we were talking about, like on the one hand, you have that.
Yeah.
Meeting Bruce Springsteen, and he plays your guitar and signs your guitar. Or, all of this kind of stuff. But on the other hand, you have that thing of like punching the time card. Yeah. You don't remember the show. And so eventually you get to a point where another job offer came in, and I went, I think it's time for me to do this because I'll learn something. And so you kind of go off and do something new. And for me, I maybe it's not always the smart thing, but I never made any decision based on money.
That's good. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to. You have kids, you have obligations. That I don't, and I never really had any obligations outside of myself and my wife. And so I never made a decision of staying in something or whatever because the money was better. Right. I always kind of went, I'll figure out the money. Yeah. I'll figure it out.
I am amazed. And in this, I say this business, but pick one of them that you've worked in. Yeah. But I mean, I am amazed at how if you try to make decisions based on the money, it'll be temporary money, and then you'll be down the road going, why did I do that? Yeah. But I'm also amazed at when you just go with your gut and say, this is where I feel I need to head. Right. The money comes.
It comes, and because there are certain times in your life where you do have to, you go like, look, in the short term, I could make the cash, but it's for the goal of getting something that you need, you want, or something that's going to benefit your life or your partner's life or your family's life. But whenever it's an artistic thing, if it's an artistic choice, or if you don't have those factors really coming into play, doing anything for the money is always the wrong one. Because you won't get any personal growth out of it. Right. And at the end of the day, money is just the resource that you can get from many different means. Right. It's easy to say when you have some. If you don't have any, that's it's hard to see that perspective, and I recognize that. Yeah. Which is why at those times, it's one of those times when take the you need the money, so that's take the thing. But if you make artistic choices based on that, you're not going to be very happy. Right. And I don't know if I've always known that. I've always known that my decisions have generally had that in mind. Mm-hmm. And for the most part, it's been a happy thing. Yeah. I've been able to do a bunch of different things. Totally. Because of that. I've allowed those things to come into my life. Right. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. Magic was one of those things that came into my life later.
Yeah, how did you get involved in magic? When did you get involved in magic?
I had a magic kit when I was a kid. Yeah. I had a Harry Blackstone Jr. magic kit. Yes. I remember it vividly. It was this cardboard box. It had Harry Blackstone Jr. He was, his chest puffed out.
Did you ever see him perform?
I only saw on TV. Yeah. And he was all over. Copperfield and Harry Blackstone Jr. when I was a kid were all over TV. Yep. And those were big specials. So again, pre-internet, things that were primetime TV.
Oh yeah. Everybody was like,
you'd open the TV guide and there was a full page black and white ad for David Copperfield's special.
And you're like, well, Thursday at 8, I guess I'm sitting in front of this TV. That's
exactly right.
Because you also had no concept of when this is ever going to happen again.
Absolutely. And that was it, and if you had a VHS player, you could, get your dad to record it. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. And then be so paranoid. Did it record? Did it record? Exactly right.
No, it's still the Golden Girls.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And so it was one of those things where, primetime TV was an event. Yeah. And I had this magic kit. I remember when I was a kid, I was so into Copperfield specials, especially on TV.
Yeah.
And I would gather around the TV. Copperfield used to do this great thing where, and now you can see all this on YouTube now.
Right.
But he would do this thing where the special starts at 8:00.
Yeah.
And you're watching it, and it's got all this fanfare to it, and you're gathering around the TV. And I remember he would open his specials, talking into the camera, such Copperfield style.
Yep.
He would go, and he was saying something. So you look back on it now. I've like rewatched certain things, like the one where he makes the Orient Express, levitate and disappear. And they're showing this, like, all these Victorian era people getting onto the Orient Express. Yeah. And like, I think it's Jane Seymour, the actress. And you hear Jane Seymour's voice is going, the Orient Express, it possesses mystery, magic, this. And you're watching all these people in costumes get on the Orient Express. Right. And then out of nowhere, for no good reason whatsoever, Copperfield drives in on a motorcycle. And you're like,
and Phil Collins starts playing.
It's like Peter Gabriel starts playing, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought we were like on the Orient Express, and it was mystery and stuff. And no, it's Copperfield,
big time,
exactly. And he drives into the train station, surrounded by, and he gets off the motorcycle, and he's got huge hair, all that. And you're like, what the hell is happening?
And then a sheet. He has a sheet.
And then he
traveled with a king-size white bed sheet.
Exactly right. Sheet goes over the thing. Sheet goes over the motorcycle. He looks at the camera. He like gives a wink. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, just don't just break the fourth wall. Punch the fourth wall in the nuts. And then he pulls the sheet, and it's just two women.
Two women. With like one's like Captain Morgan on a suitcase.
Exactly. And you're like,
these images are burned in my memory.
Totally. You're like, and the motorcycle is two women. You wrote in two women. And then after that, he would. The coolest part, though, so he would do that. He just it's like he gave up on an idea. It's like he was like, we're gonna open with this period piece, this, and then I come in on a motorcycle, and the creative team is sitting around going like, okay, all right, David, whatever you want.
I want to see the sketch that is the creative writers meeting of Copperfield.
It's the brain, because what it felt like was all these writers are like, oh, this is going to be great. We're going to write this period piece, this whole thing. And then David's like, yeah. But I ride in on a motorcycle
and it turns into women.
Yeah, sure, David. That's great. So, but the best part of those specials, and he did it in multiple specials, is that he would do this thing, some, completely obtuse beginning, whatever.
Yeah.
But then he would turn to the camera and he would walk towards the screen.
Yeah.
And he would come up to the screen, and so you would be sitting watching,
and he would tell you, "Come closer."
Come closer. That's exactly it. So he would say, "Come here.
Yeah.
I want you to decide amongst one of you in your living room." And you're like, "How does he know I'm in my living room?"
I remember yelling at my family, "Guys, he's talking to me."
Exactly
Be
right.
quiet.
This is me. I'm doing this. And but I was, as a kid, you're like, how does he know we're in the living room?
Right.
Because that's where your TV is, genius. And he would say, come to the screen, And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And then he does the game, where it's like, you start here.
Yep.
Now go 3 spaces either direction.
Yep.
Here.
Yep.
Here. And then finally, you have the one card, and he goes, I think it was a location game. Where are you in the world? And he's like, you're at the pyramids. And you were like, fuck. I am, David.
How did he know?
And then it goes to commercial, and you're like, everyone, get my snack now. And then,
Mom, we got to buy Clorox. Exactly. This shit's magical.
This is magical. So it left a huge impression. So when I was a kid, magic was kind of delivered to me as that, which the framework around it was huge because it was the only exposure to it. And then it went away from me. Then it went away. And around that time, I found theater and stuff like that. I moved here about 5 years ago. And in New York, I was so focused on, first of all, surviving in New York, and also theater, musical theater, my goal of doing Broadway, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't think about magic at all. And New York's a great city for magic.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But I didn't think about it at all. I come here, and my wife was doing a musical. She's a performer as well. She was doing a musical with Robert Ramirez, a production of Beauty and the Beast. I didn't know Robert, but Gwen was like, there's this guy. He's playing LeFou. You have to meet this guy. He does magic. And I was like, cool. I like magic. Yeah. And we're at a cast party, and Robert takes a straw. He just has a simple straw. Yeah. And he's not doing cards. He's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And Gwen was like, he does magic. And Robert takes a little cocktail straw, and he goes, doop, and it disappears. Like he's holding it in his finger.
Yeah.
Doop, and it disappears. my reality shut down. Because he just, we hadn't even talked very much yet, but he just went, and it was right there. It's 3 inches from my nose, and it was gone.
Did it take you back to those moments of
something weird happened?
Yeah.
Something weird happened where I was like, "You're my new best friend." You know what I mean?
We're going to be buddies.
Yeah, we're going to be buddies. I promise I won't tell how you did it. Just tell me how you did it.
I got so many straws in my apartment.
Exactly right. And so
straws.
I just completely went head over heels.
Yeah.
It flooded back to me. I was like, oh, yeah. This is a thing.
Yeah.
It was like when I saw The Music Man. I was like, oh, I didn't know this was a thing. And I was like, oh, my God, this is a thing.
Yeah.
So from there, we started hanging out a lot. And I loved it. I had gone to the Magic Castle for the first time on a trip here. This was pre that. On a trip here I took in 2012. I went to the Magic Castle the first time because I really wanted to go. I'd heard about it.
Oh, yeah.
And some acquaintance of an acquaintance got me an invite. We went, and first show I saw was Fielding West in the Palace.
Yeah.
He did his tiger
the
act.
Tiger thing, yeah.
And I thought it was great, super funny. And I was like, this is great. I didn't expect to see this little amazing place in LA.
Yeah.
It felt very avant-garde in New York, and I was looking at it through the eyes of theater. And I was like, what is this weird mansion? I'm eating prime rib. I don't know what's happening.
It's bigger on the inside than it is on the outside.
Exactly. I thought it was so cool. And then I hadn't even lived here yet. And then when I moved here, Robert would take me to the castle after I met him, and I kind of thought to myself, I need to be a member of this. Yeah. I need to figure this out. Yeah. I love this, and I want to be a member of this. I want to be able to come here anytime I want. Yeah. And see shows. So the theater part of me was on full ping, you know, and the kind of magic part of me was on full tilt too. And I was like, this is
so the convergence of two passions.
It was the convergence of something new for me. Yeah. And it didn't feel competitive. Yeah. It didn't feel like, it wasn't like when I go and would see a Broadway show and I'd be like, what part is in here for me? What is it? Like, it was completely pure for me and joyful. So anyways, after a while, hanging out with Robert ended up working a lot with Jim Steinmeier and knows him. That's kind of has been his mentor. And Jim Steinmeier, I didn't know who he was. Yeah. I had no idea who he was.
Who also not only is the king of magic, like has anything you've ever seen that you've loved.
It's Jim.
He's a brainchild of it.
I mean, he's all over those David Copperfield specials. Right. When Copperfield went to the screen, those are Steinmeier's.
And also has worked on so many Broadway productions.
And he worked on Broadway, all the Disney on Broadway. All the illusions in Beauty and the Beast, all the illusions in Aladdin, Mary Poppins, all that stuff.
So I have to, since we're talking about Jim, I have to fess up right now. Yeah. Last night, I met Jim for the first time.
No way.
I have done magic since I was 8 years old. Yeah. I have read every book he's ever written. Yeah. I am obsessed with every illusion he's ever designed. Yeah. Last night, I was like, you know what? I'm going to say hi to Jim Steinmeier. And I had to call Chipper Lowell today because I recorded with Chipper. His podcast will have just come out. And I went up to Jim. I was like, Jim, I just was talking to Chipper about you, and we had this great conversation. We were talking about this conversation. And when I walked out of the Magic Bar last night, I went to my wife. I went, yeah, that was with Alex Ramon. I didn't have that conversation with Chipper.
That's so funny.
But I totally went like you with Ian McKellen. I'm like, look, like very few people in this business do I get like starstruck over. But I'm like,
well, he is the preeminent authority on magic.
He's like a curator of wonder.
He's a curator of wonder, and now the president of the AMA.
Yes,
I didn't know who he was, so Robert introduced me to him, and I was like, oh, cool. Hey man, great. I knew he did Disney on Broadway, and I was like, that was cool enough for me. I was like, oh man, you do theater? Oh yeah. I do theater, you know. Yeah. So we bonded over theater. It wasn't about magic. And Robert was like, oh, I'm working on some stuff over at Jim's house. You want to come? And I was like, yeah. So I go over to Jim's house, and he's got his workshop in the back full of his books and his stuff. And I'd be like, oh man, you really know a lot about magic. You must be really into this. You know, this is a moment of me being an idiot.
He's like, Doug Henning? That was me.
I'm like, David Copperfield? I know Doug Henning from The Magic Show, and Copperfield, of course. But anyways, then it wasn't until Jim and I were already friends that I was like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, Oh, which was probably a good thing because whenever I meet people who are, if I know, I respect the hell out of anyone who has dedicates their life to anything like that.
Right.
And I may have been the same way. I may have been just
totally
like,
did.
So I ended up, we became friends, and now we go out to lunch and we, hang out, but we became friends, and, but it's great because it's based on the fact, I think he liked the fact that I didn't know anything.
Right.
And, so he came and would see me in some shows, and we would hang out and, kind of all of that. And then when Jim, who also wrote a really great play, he thought of me.
This goes back to the being grateful for the areas where we're naive, because we screw up things when we overthink them, I think.
We get in our own way because we have a perception that either we're not worthy or, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it is.
I felt so stupid last night.
But the thing is with Jim, because even John Accardo, who you saw last night, said to me, like, I get nervous talking to Jim and stuff. I was like, I guarantee you, Jim is more nervous talking to you.
Isn't that funny?
Jim is just a little bit more reserved, and he's one of those kind of people that, he's not going to take the first step to talk to you. Right. It's about you just going up and doing it. But, I always make it a rule whenever I see anyone or meet anyone that I want to talk to. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to talk to them.
Yeah. You got to do it.
Yeah, you got to do it, because that I'm not worthy thing gets you nowhere.
Oh yeah, totally.
But that was my, Jim is one of those guys. And now subsequently I've read so much about Jim. Jim comes to Magic Bar all the time. He's one of the reasons why Magic Bar exists.
So cool.
And I love working with him. I love, I love having a sandwich with him.
I want to talk about this show you did that he wrote. Yeah, because this was my first time seeing you perform.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't realize I had listened to you on the Book of Mormon a million times.
Yeah.
And we saw the show in New York, but I think it was right after you had transitioned out. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's doing a show at the castle. I got to see this.
Yeah.
And that show messed with my mind.
Did it?
Like most things that Jim writes, but your delivery and your ability to transition persona in the show.
Yeah.
It really, I was like, I don't know what's happening. Like, I love it, but I don't understand.
Well,
is he a magician? Is he an actor?
Yeah.
Like,
the challenge of it too is it's actually a 2-hour play.
Yeah.
And we just presented kind of 50 condensed minutes of a much longer narrative.
Yeah.
So what that was just a taste of something that exists in a longer format as a theatrical piece. But in a nutshell, it's taking the tenets of, it's told through you meet an advertising executive named Jarvis Laurie.
Yeah.
And Jarvis introduces himself. He's kind of fallen from grace a little bit.
Yep.
He used to be on top of the world giving TED Talks and all this stuff. And basically he illustrates to the audience how he employs magic. He uses magic to make you think that you're making a lot of free will choices.
Right.
And actually they're all choices that through certain, kind of magical elements, conjurer's choices and things like that.
Yep.
You realize that what you thought was free will wasn't free will.
You're just being sold.
You're being sold a bill of goods, but these are techniques that advertising agencies have used since the 50s,
right?
That magicians use all the time. And the example of it is kind of a condensed example of it in magic speak is I take a deck of cards and I set a deck of cards down.
Yep.
And I say to you, you're familiar with a deck of cards. In it, you have, your values from ace to king. You have your 4 distinctive suits. Yeah. You know them as the club heart thingy, but they're the body part, the gemstone, the leaf, and the tool. And you have the blood colored cards and the ink colored cards. And I call them that because they're medieval things that have been handed down to us from medieval culture. Yep. And so we'll just start with an imaginary deck of cards. So if I have it in my hand here, we'll use a process of elimination. Do you want the blood colored cards or the ink colored cards?
The blood-colored cards.
Great. So process of elimination, we eliminate the blood. I take the rest of them, the black cards, the ink-colored cards that I have. I spread them out like this. Now, again, I mentioned body part, gemstone, leaf, and the tool. We just eliminated the body part and the gemstone.
Right.
That leaves us leaves and tools.
Yep.
What do you want to keep, the leaf or the tool?
Let's keep the tool.
The tool. All right. So we're going to keep the club. We get rid of the leaf-shaped card, the spade. So I get rid of that. I take these clubs. I spread them out like that. I divide them into high and low. What do you want to keep, the high cards or the low cards?
Let's keep low.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I get rid of the rest. I take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the clubs. I split them up again into high and low. What do you want to keep, the high or the low?
High.
4, 5, and 6. I get rid of the rest. 4, 5, and 6. If I add the value of those cards, that equals 4 plus 5 plus 6 is 15. The 15 of clubs. That doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
So we'll keep adding. 15, 1 plus 5 is 6. The 6 of clubs.
Yeah.
There we go. 6 of clubs. We arrived at that.
Yeah.
We used a process. You have to admit each and every choice was your own, and we've arrived at the 6 of clubs.
Right.
And we did that all with this imaginary deck of cards that we just talked through.
Totally.
But the ones sitting here, that I would have in front of the audience, these are not imaginary cards. And I would take the box and I'd open it up and I'd spread them all out, and the only one turned up would be the 6 of clubs.
Yeah.
And it looks like a magic trick, but I'd say it's not a magic trick. It's a psychology experiment. I'll tell you exactly how it's done. I asked you to choose red or black.
Yep.
But I didn't tell you which ones we'd keep and which ones we'd reject.
Right.
So that's the first thing.
Yep.
Secondly, I translated the suits from clubs and spades into leaves and tools.
Right.
But a club can be a tool, but a spade can be a tool.
Right.
A club is a clover, it's leaf-shaped, but a spade is leaf-shaped.
Yeah.
You are always going to end up with a club. Finally, I asked you to group the cards, but I grouped them, didn't I? And a 4, 5, and 6 equals 15. 1 plus 5 is 6.
Yeah.
But if you chose 1, 2, and 3, that equals 6. If you chose a 7, 8, and 9, that equals 24. 2 plus 4 is 6. If you chose a 10 plus 11 plus 12, 10, 11, 12, that equals 33.
Yeah.
3 plus 3 is 6. It's just a mathematical curiosity.
I love it.
And so you would do that as the kind of the first part of a larger trick, but it illustrates the point that what you thought were all of your choices were all my choices.
Yeah.
And from who you vote for to what you purchase.
Right.
These are things that you feel you have free will in, but maybe these decisions have already been made for you. So that is the essence of what Jim wrote. Yeah. And that's the first part of a larger trick that happens in that show.
Yep.
And it's an interesting thing, but even, not to give too much away because it's going to happen again later this year somewhere, but even who Jarvis is himself.
Right.
Is what you potentially want him to be.
Yep.
And then when he tells you what he actually is, you go, oh, so what is the truth? Because then he goes back to what you maybe want him to be. So you don't know. It's very unsettling. Right. And it's very Jim.
Yeah.
It's written from a place of question, and
I love it.
Some people may find it cynical. I actually find it. I find it scary. I think it's what he's writing is essentially kind of scary.
Really?
Yeah, I think the idea that I think I have the perception of free choice and don't have it. It's scary.
It's interesting because it seems like a lot of the takeaways from this are similar to what I took away from watching the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, in some ways.
Very much in making your own choices, and yet what choices are we just
going along with?
Right.
But at the end of the day, does believing in this make your life or other lives better?
Right.
Or is it a hindrance to yourself or to others or to a society? I don't know. I mean, they're kind of deep things that you could kind of extract from these things. But magicians practice this all the time.
Yeah.
And depending on the magician, some magicians explore it more than others. Right. Some magicians... that's why magic to me is an endlessly fascinating thing, because for some magicians, and for some magicians, they just love doing some magic tricks and that's it. Other magicians want to delve into why are we doing this?
Right.
Some magicians want you to feel duped. Some magicians don't want you to feel taken care of, like you're not being duped. I'm sharing this with you. So I've seen all different kinds now that I've been in this world, and I go to the castle.
Which is interesting, because I think a lot of people, unlike in music, I think John was talking about this last night, how if you see a musician and they're not that great, you don't go, I hate music.
Exactly.
But a lot of people in magic, they do have this preconceived notion that it's hokey or that, it's something I'd see at a birthday party. But there are so many different ways people are exploring the art.
I think it's changing now, but I do think that culturally in the entertainment world, the things we would see on TV and stuff, magic was used as a punchline.
Yes.
Magicians were used as a punchline.
Right. Yep.
You would kind of think like there are singers or musicians.
Yep.
And then, you would put and actors. Yeah. But you would put magicians down with like mimes and jugglers and birthday party shit. And it's usually, that comes from, I love mimes and jugglers. Right. It's just, I think when it's at a birthday party in a scene of a sitcom. Right. Yeah. I think they're painting this as the art form. Yeah. So I think it's changing. I think magic is starting to shift in people's perception, but not everywhere. In LA, it's not like that because we have the castle. Right. And Hollywood has, I think, for the most part, with things like the Prestige and stuff, even though they're not accurate. Right. Who cares? But
they're still showing them in a light that is more that's admirable,
exciting, and admirable and worthy of investing some time in. If you see the Prestige, and as a jaded magician, you watch it and go, "That's not accurate. You're missing the point." Yeah. The idea is someone's going to see that and go, "That's fascinating. I would like to learn more."
I think that we're at a point too, because we have unlimited access to information, that anytime you can do something that people can't immediately find the answer to, it puts them in this interesting spot where they are more open to considering questions about what they think or what they feel.
Right. I find that the general public actually has a very open mind to magic. I'll tell you who I don't think has an open mind to magic.
Do it.
Magicians. Magicians don't have an open mind to magic at all. And I'll tell you, I think that magicians, for the most part, I think are underestimating the craft. Yes. I think magicians think that magic is a very fragile thing. So you hear a lot of magicians...
You got to defend it.
Yeah. Or magicians who get upset when there's a video exposing a trick, right? Yeah. Or everyone got all up in arms about the Masked Magician years ago, right? So Masked Magician, he's exposing these tricks and this, and it's ruining something. I'll tell you, if magic was that fragile, it'd be gone. It'd be gone. It's not. It's not. Here's the thing that I think a lot of magicians don't. I don't know if they don't realize, or I think it's a perception with some magicians. Right. Is that it's this fragile thing that survives on secrets. Right. The fact of the matter is, even if the layman sees how the woman is cut in half, it doesn't matter. Yeah. It doesn't matter, because when they go see it in Las Vegas, when Penn and Teller do it in a really creative way, it's thrilling. Yep. So this whole perception that magic is this fragile thing. Yeah, I saw it recently. I don't know where it was somewhere online. It was there are these viral videos of these two guys out of Korea. Oh yeah. Right. And the one guy's doing a magic trick, and then the other guy goes and completely fucks up the trick. Right. There was this long thread that I ended up reading because
it's addicting.
Because it's addicting.
I'm just here for the comments.
Exactly right. And there were so many people up in arms of like, this is wrong. And I'm like, you know what? No one cares. No. You care more than anybody. Yeah. And this is what I'm discovering at Magic Bar, because most of the people that come to Magic Bar are not magicians. Yes. It's not a magician's club. No. It's for some people, it's their first time seeing magic, close at magic, live. Yeah. But they're there to see magic. Yeah. And they don't want to know how it's done. No. Most people will never ask. Right. Siegfried Tieber opens that up for questioning. He says, does anybody have a question for me? Yes. And people go, when did you get into magic? Or this. What is your favorite trick? Yes, no one ever asks him how something is done. Right. And the reason being is no one really cares how something is done.
They want the feeling.
And as long as the magician is giving something, the framework of it is something interesting and something that feels good and is enticing, that's all that matters. So I do find that magicians are sometimes kind of their own worst enemy of this. And I don't think the culture of a lot of magicians I don't think it helps. Here's the thing, though. I'm on the outside looking in on a lot of this because for many of my friends who are making a career as a magician, I'm making right now a career promoting magic.
Yeah.
I'm not making my career as a magician.
Right.
So if I was making my career as a magician, this highly competitive thing, and I'm a little absolved of it because I don't have to do that. It's a tough world. It's a tough thing. I was talking to Steve Valentine last night. I go, sometimes I go to the castle and I always like what I see. There's so many wonderful, different, varied kind of performers. But there is a part of me that gets a little sad when, I've been going for years now. And when I see a magician who I love and they're doing the same exact thing. And I go, I don't care as much because it's not the same for the audience. Most of the audience is probably seeing it for the first time.
Yeah.
It's fine. And they don't necessarily need to change their act or do new things for other magicians. Who cares?
Yeah.
But I do kind of go like, but don't you as a magician?
Yes.
Don't you want to keep learning, keep doing stuff? Well, and Steve said, well, it's almost better to just do a completely new act than to put new elements into an act that is working. And I'm like, I guess.
See, this is a thing that I've been on the last couple of months. I have this weird spot right now with magic because I love it so much, but I want people to love it enough to do these kind of things that we're talking about.
Right.
Like I have so many friends who are stand-ups, and stand-ups understand that jokes, once you present them, they need to be let go.
Right.
And you need to write new stuff.
Also, some of them are not timeless.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
So the nature of time has to change some of those.
Yeah. Well, even, when somebody, someone says a joke, if they've heard it before, they'll stop you.
Right.
So there's this idea of you need to come up with new material.
Right.
And I've realized that magicians can do the same act when they were 30,
right,
when they're 60.
Right.
They shouldn't, but they can.
Yeah.
And just for me personally, because the stuff that I try to do is very personal and it's story driven.
Right.
I've been dealing with realizing I have stuff that's 6 months old that I love and that the audiences react well to, but I notice myself the story is losing that power it had because I've said it too many times.
Right.
Kind of like what you were saying when you go into autopilot, and I just go, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take something that was very meaningful to me,
right,
and have it just be something that's a shtick.
Well, and I've seen so many magicians who technically they're wonderful technicians. I can watch them do amazing things with cards, but especially with cards.
Right.
But after about 15 minutes, I'm zoning out, man. I'm zoning.
Yeah.
And that's why, and I'll fully admit this, when I'm around magicians who are sessioning, I'm spacing out, bro. And the reason I'm spacing out is because there's no context. Now, there's not, especially when they're sessioning, there doesn't need to be a context.
Yeah.
That's not about that. Sessioning is about trying new things, comparing and contrasting notes, seeing different moves and stuff like that. But when I see a magic act that feels like an extension of sessioning,
yes,
I really do zone out.
It's like going to a concert and it's like an hour-long guitar solo.
Yeah, it's the reason why.
It's amazing, but I don't care.
Yeah.
There's no context for me
I'd
to
zone
care
out
about
the
it.
same way at a Fish concert, dude. I would be the same way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my beef in general with a lot of magic is that, I want to care more.
Yeah.
And when I do see the magicians where they are letting the magic access something personal to them, or they have something clever to do with it that is not forced, but has a framework of, and it's my personal bias, a framework of theater, I tend to really heavily respond in a positive way to it. If I just see a card manipulation, if I'm just watching, a million ways that how to double lift,
right,
I'm zoning.
Yeah.
I'm zoning out.
Yeah.
I can appreciate it.
Right.
And I can respect it.
Yeah.
But I kind of, my personal taste kind of zones away from that. So, when I go to the castle and I see something new, I always get really, really excited. Every time I go to the castle, though, I don't always see something new.
Right.
And, some of that's on me. I fully, but I see a lot of people who I'm like, you're so great. Aren't you diving into deeper stuff? And deeper stuff? And not everyone is.
Well, and because sometimes the new thing is the story and the presentation. I've watched guys do something and it blows my mind, and then I go, oh, that was a chop cup routine.
Right.
I didn't even realize it.
Yeah.
Because
it's great.
And so it's not always like not doing something that's been done before, but it's doing it in a way where all of a sudden people have buy-in.
Right. And that's when, for me, whenever I've been asked to direct, I think so many magicians could benefit from having a director.
Yeah.
Magic is such an individual sport a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And a lot of magicians are not eager to have anyone else help them because they see it as a sign of some weakness or something like that. I always love when magicians have a director. Penn and Teller have a director whenever they do their show on Broadway. They bring in a director. They've done their show for the last 18 or whatever years at the Rio. Yeah. And yet when they go do their show in New York, they hire a director to come in and make sure that it's done right. When I directed Robert Ramirez and Nathan Fan down in the Peller the past couple of times, and the first time we did it, I directed it, we got it up and running, and we made some cuts, and I made some suggestions of we need to get this moving, or this sightline is wrong, or this bit of dialogue is clunky, or let's cut this. And then when we did it, and I think 7 months later, I was like, if we're going to do it again in the Peller, we have to do it. We have to make it better. There's no point in doing it again if we're not going to. If it's just the same thing. Yeah. And they jumped in on that. They were good with that because they know that they're going to have a director who's going to do that. But that's how I just kind of feel. If you're going to go back to the Peller and do your show for a second or a third time,
bring something new to it.
I just would think it's your own personal responsibility to yourself.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you? Steve Valentine shows up last night at Magic Bar. He's going to be doing a full set for us soon. But he shows up last night. He asks, can I come to Magic Bar and just do something brand new? I just want to try it in front of an audience, see the reaction. I was like, of course.
Love it.
Of course. Yeah. And even if it failed miserably, failed big. This, like John Accardo said last night, the stakes couldn't be lower. So fail huge. It doesn't matter because Steve could always find some way out of it if he needed to for the audience's sake. But for himself, it's just really exciting to hear him, who's been around, 2-time Close-Up Magician of the Year, and he's nervous to do a book test.
I love it.
And it's brand new, and he's going to do a book test, and I'm watching him get his stuff ready, and I'm like, that's great. He's going to try this and it may fail, and he's still nervous about doing it and stuff. And I'm like, that to me is being an artist.
And what's great is that Steve invented the book test that every other magician is doing right now and going, it's perfect. I don't need to change it. And yet he's like, no, I'm going to do something new with that.
Right. Can I,
amazing.
Yeah. Can I come to the bar and do something new? I don't know if this is going to work, but I want to try it and for me, that is, it's heartwarming to me to see that, because that to me that's being an artist.
Right.
And when I see magicians do it, it's really super exciting. Jim is that way all the time. Oh, yeah. Jim has worked on a million things. Yeah. Jim has done some of the biggest illusions in the world. Yeah. And yet what brings Jim a lot of joy is working with young magicians who aren't trying to impress him with the things that have been done a million times, but just have a new idea to do something. He gets more joy out of working with magicians on the framework for an arm chopper.
Yeah.
Than he would flying out and doing some big Broadway show sometimes for Disney.
Yeah.
And that to me is, again, heartwarming and exciting. And that his love of magic is absolutely pure and true. And he's an artist before anything.
I love that.
And that's what's exciting about some of these, when I've had the pleasure of hosting these magicians at Magic Bar. With Siegfried, with Robert Ramirez, with Jonathan Levitt, is these guys have certain things in their act that they've done for so long, and they're willing to try something new, and change things, and to watch sometimes them get nervous, it's great because it means they're taking a risk,
right?
And that's all. That's all. I just want to be around people like that all the time.
I love it, and I love that you've created this place that is conducive for their creativity. I mean, I will talk in the intro about my experience. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I went to Magic Bar last night for the first time, and you walk into this place that's already a cool place, and then all of a sudden you're like, wow, there's this separate space that is just
You probably didn't know what you were getting into.
I had no idea.
You're like, I'm in a lounge.
It does have a very like a speakeasy vibe to it, where you're like, I don't know. There is some mystery to it. I loved that
you're in a strip mall on the second floor.
Well, I loved that even like when I signed up and went online and got my tickets and stuff, like I'm getting emails and I'm getting text messages of like, here's where to park and don't forget this. And I just felt like so cared for in the midst of not knowing what I was getting into. It was awesome.
Right. Yeah, and then you walk in and you're going, what? You're passing a carousel to get into the second floor strip. You're going, what the fuck is this? But then when you're in there, there's no pretense.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of these experiential places, especially in LA, pop-up bars are huge. And you go into these places that are supposed to be experiential.
Right.
And they feel a little pretentious or they're very overpriced.
Which just makes you feel more disconnected from it.
Makes you feel very disconnected. And the one thing that I never wanted is, as much as it is unique going into this weird kind of bar and there's candles lit and you're like, what is this? And we're crammed into this little place. I never wanted it to feel like you're lucky to be here.
Yeah.
I don't want that. That's not what it's about. I want you to feel like, yeah, dude, we know it's cramped. Come on in. Just get yourself as comfortable as you can. Let me put a drink in your hand.
Yep.
Relax. So here's the deal. You're about to see some of the greatest close-up magic in the world.
Yeah.
It happens to be here. And I'm not shitting you.
Yeah.
You know, whoever is there that night, these are the top people that you could possibly be seeing.
Right.
And this is not, you're separated from them or separated from me.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. We're all hanging out in our cramped little living room.
Yeah.
And you're going to see some magic.
Love it.
And at any time during this, flag me down. You want a drink? Let's get a drink in front of you. You want some popcorn?
Yeah.
Have some popcorn in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, and we're playing some vinyl records. And, you know, I had some people say, why don't you raise the price? You could raise the price on an experience like this to $50 if you want it. And I was like, because I don't want to.
Yeah.
Because when I do that and I start to rival castle prices or some high-end experiential price, then it's not your alternative to going to the movies.
Yeah. It's not as accessible to people.
It's not as accessible to people. And I want people to feel like this is, you know, what could we do tonight? Well, we could go to Magic Bar tonight, or we could go to the movies and, we've been to the movies. Let's try this. Let's take a risk and try this. And then you end up having a conversation. You end up thinking outside the box on a lot of stuff.
Right.
Nothing's forced on you. It's it's never preachy.
Yep.
And it's not snooty. It's just a good hangout. And people don't want to leave.
Yeah.
You know, people want to hang out. They want to talk about magic. The performers have ample time to ingratiate themselves to the audience. It's a warm place to be.
That's so awesome, man.
You know, so I'm glad you had a good time.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Where did this idea come from for you? Like, when did you say, you know what?
So
I think we could do something with close-up magic.
Magic Bar exists on a Monday night. Because Wednesday through Sunday, it's a sushi bar.
Cool.
It's an omakase style, 17-course, high-end sushi bar.
Yeah.
Speakeasy.
Yeah.
And I developed the cocktail menu for that sushi bar because that's kind of the other passion I have is developing cocktail menus. I developed the tiki menu, cocktail menu for Clifton's downtown.
That drink I had last night, that bullet catch. Holy moly.
It's good. And it's
amazing.
It's some just decent bourbon, smoked honey that we kind of make there in-house, a little bit of ginger foam, touch of lime, just a really great, well-rounded drink. So I designed some cocktail menus and stuff. And when we opened the sushi bar, I was working in there.
Yeah.
I was kind of this MC that people would come in through the back in the speakeasy, very mysterious. And they would sit down and I would say, welcome to Sushi Bar, because it's called Sushi Bar.
Yeah.
This is what is about to happen tonight. 17 courses, omakase style. And we had these wooden slats on the back board that would be like, you're going to move through all these courses. At the end, we'll do a la carte. And so anyways, people would sit for an hour and a half experience and they'd have this amazing sushi that's prepared under lighting on the countertop, like a chef's table, you know, like on Netflix.
Yep.
Beautifully prepared sushi. There's no like at a sushi restaurant, they have that glass dome thing over the front. It's nothing like that. It's you're watching the food. They're talking about the ingredients. You're seeing it right in front of you. It's a show, a culinary show.
Yeah.
And it's awesome. It's still, to this day, it's still one of the best places to get sushi. So I would hold court in there. And then afterwards, we'd have certain people in there, and the head chef, who's a celebrity chef named Philip Lee, he was on Chopped and Top Chef and stuff. he knew I did some magic, and he said, "Oh, could you show so and so would be in here? A VIP would be in there." He said, "You should do a little card trick, do something." So I would do some stuff, and they would get a huge reaction.
Oh yeah,
and they would love it. And so I said, it's dark on Monday and Tuesday nights. It's just empty. It's not generating any revenue for anybody. I was like, what if we don't do sushi, but we do some cocktails and we just do magic, and we'll call it Magic Bar.
Yeah.
We'll just do that. And he said, "It's great. Let's do it." He's like, I'll treat it as if you're a band and I'm the venue.
Yeah.
So, we'll work out the percentages.
Yep.
I'll set you up with, ticket infrastructure, all of that kind of stuff. And, beverage sales and stuff. That's all. It's all revenue for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Any revenue, any people traffic that we bring in, they have to go through the lounge in front, which is called Woodley Proper. So it generates traffic there.
Yep.
And so we started that at the end of August last year, and it works.
So cool.
And once Atlas Obscura came, Time Out LA Weekly, once these people came and they were like, this feels just, the word everyone seems to be kind of touting when it comes to Magic Bar, this just feels special.
Yeah.
And that's very heartwarming to hear that they feel that way. It feels special.
Yeah.
The castle feels special in a different way.
Right. Oh, totally.
When you go to the castle, you get done up. You usually have gotten your invite.
Yeah.
If you're going on a weekend, which most people are going on, it's very crowded.
Right.
You have a great time, but it's a different experience.
Yeah, it is. That was one thing last night that I noticed was like, this is distinctively different from the castle.
Yeah.
In a great way.
Yeah.
And I love the castle, but it's great that I think the more opportunities we give people to experience magic and do it in a way where it's relaxed and laid back and fun, it's just going to continue to elevate the art.
Well, and I think what's the best for me, the part that means the most to me, obviously when the guests who arrive who are non-magicians watch it and they have the best time.
Yeah.
But what means the most to me is when I have magicians come.
Yeah.
And Mike Piscata came.
Yeah.
And afterwards, Mike was like, and he's going to perform on the 30th of this month. Mike was like, I do a set here. And I was like, really? I was like, but you're working every night practically at,
the
why
castle,
would you? And he goes, I don't know. I just feel like I'm, doing something for magic here.
Yeah.
And that meant a lot to me.
Yep.
I feel like I'm doing something for magic here, and I'm like, and he performs all over the place, and he performs for celebrities, and he's doing all this stuff, and,
Yeah.
But that made me feel good because that was all the right reasons why
to have it
in the first place. Yeah. I'm certainly not doing it for the money.
Yeah.
I'm not charging a lot. I'm doing it because it brings me a lot of joy to hold court and have a place where I personally can showcase magic.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing it to give myself a venue.
Right.
Of like, great, I have my own magic show.
Right.
That makes sense for a magician to want to do that.
Yeah.
That's the dream. You have, your theater named after you, hopefully, and all
right.
that. I have no necessarily interest in that.
Yeah.
My interest is I want to be there.
Yeah.
I want to be there. I want to host it. I want to welcome it. And I want to be like, welcome to my place.
Yeah.
And now here's this person. I'll do a few things. I'll jump in and do a few little things, but welcome to my place.
Yeah.
I want to give you some drinks. I want you to have fun. I want to take care of you.
It takes it back to, even the name parlor at the castle came from this time where people would gather around in the living room, and when guests would come over, you would invite entertainment and you would try to give them an experience that they can't get every day of their life.
Exactly. And for the, about an hour or so that you're there, whether at 7 p.m. or 9 p.m., you're not looking at your phone.
No.
You're not thinking about the outside world or not. Matter of fact, you leave the place and you go, oh yeah, I'm in Encino, out of all places. But it's a real treat when John Carney shows up a few weeks ago. John's watching a set, and then, I kind of say at the end, because there was all these kind of non-magician people, and I say, ladies and gentlemen, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that right here is a person here. I don't want to embarrass you, John, but here's a legend of the world of magic who's worked with Di Vernon directly, is a protege of the professor, and all of this. And I said, John, again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but would you want to do a little something? My Machiavellian brain is going like, ha ha ha, I'm putting you on the spot.
Right.
But John ended up having magicians and everyone have such a good time. He goes, well, okay, I'll do something. And then I hand John a deck of cards, and he does something great, and he produces a card from between his toes, and everyone goes crazy. And for the non-magician people, they feel like they're part of something really special.
Yeah.
When I introduced Jim last night, the people, they don't know who Jim is just because they're not in that world. It's not their industry. It's not their in their purview. Right. But all of a sudden, when that introduction is made and they know and they put it together and they go, oh, we're someplace very special right now. Yeah. And we're amongst people who are someplace really, really special. We don't have that opportunity to sit in a movie theater with the actors that we love. But here you could sit in this little tiny space watching some of the greatest magic with the people who influenced whoever that magician is who's performing.
Yeah.
And for a non-magic person, that's a very special feeling.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm over the moon. Because I get to stand there and just be over the moon and be like, look at these great people that I brought together. So it's been one of the greatest joys in my life to do. And and that it's getting recognized that's the icing.
I love it.
Yeah, man.
I love it, man. This has been so good.
Thanks, dude.
Thank you for taking the time.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
How can people, I want to talk about how people can find out about Magic Bar. How can they see what you're doing? What's the best way for people to? So
Magic Bar is, tickets are online, magicbarla.com.
Awesome.
Tickets, are $25. Drinks a la carte. Book tickets are $25. Like I said, you just get a ticket online. Come. It sells out pretty much every week.
It's awesome.
So if you just do it a week in advance, you'll be all right. And then it's on all the social media handles.
Yeah.
Magic Bar LA, and then I'm at Schrader on Twitter at Schrader99, and I put my highlight reel out there like that, Awesome. But so much of my stuff is Magic Bar stuff, just because it's the most exciting thing right now.
I love it. I love it, man.
Yeah, dude.
If you guys are listening right now, click on the wonderful photo that we've got there of Ben. It'll flip around. I'll put links to Magic Bar, and I'll put links to your Twitter and social media stuff. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, this was a pleasure. It was so fun. So nice to have you last night.
Oh, man. It was an honor to be there. Thank you for